Well, hey there, friends. I'm your host, Penny, and this is Criminally Nerdy. What's happening, everybody? I hope everything's going well in your lives. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you guys so much for sticking it out with me last week. I had one thing after another go wrong, and I was a basket case about it. I am never late. Was anyone else raised with the whole if you're early, you're on time? If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, don't bother showing up? I was, and now I am annoyingly dependable. Sort of because of, having that drilled into my head, but mostly because anxiety. My anxiety won't allow me to be late to anything. So the podcast being 2 days late was not fun around here. If you know my wife or any of my friends, buy them a beer because they've had to put up with way more than my usual level of craziness. But we're back on schedule and my mental health is very happy about it. Not much happening in podcast news right now, other than that, I'm still batting around some ideas for Criminally Nerdy Pride merch. I'm still deciding which direction to go. Also, be on the lookout Wednesday, May 1st, for your bonus episode, The Stanford Prison Experiment. This episode is airing on April 29th, which is We Jump the World Day. It was started to celebrate parkour. I tell you this simply because if you are a listener who is also a fan of The Office, I want you to have Michael Scott saying parkour stuck in your head. You know what? You should probably call into work. Binge The Office all day. Your boss will understand. Also, sidebar, but has anyone noticed how hot Steve Carell has gotten? Like, I know that sounds weird coming from me, but oh my goodness. 2005 Steve Carell. No, thank you. And 2005 version is closer to my age now. But 2024 Steve Carell with that beard? Oh my goodness. Yes, please. Okay, it's fine. I'm fine. For any listeners who aren't fans of The Office, who hurt you? April 29th is also International Dance Day. It was started in 1982 to highlight the diversity of dance. So, call into work. Dance around all day. Tell your boss I said it was cool. Today we're heading up north to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where an aspiring filmmaker took his dark passenger from the screen into reality. This is the case of Mark Twitchell, also known as the Dexter Killer. Some of my sources for this episode were CBC News, the Edmonton Journal, the Vancouver Sun, and the TV series The Case That Haunts Me did a great episode on Mark Twitchell. John Brian Altinger, Johnny to his friends, was born in April of 1970. His older brother Gary had actually told his mom that he wanted a baby Johnny, helping to give him his name. Johnny was interested in technology from a young age, getting his first computer at 12. Now, this might be hard for you to believe, but back then, having a computer in your house was not common. He became incredibly tech savvy as he grew older. His brother said of him, quote, "Countless times he would sacrifice his own responsibilities to rescue me by word processing term papers, essays, and other important assignments while I was attending university. We were all very proud of Johnny's ability to help those much older than he was with his technical savvy." In the late 1980s, Johnny had found a community of other computer-savvy people online, which, again, not common. This is back when connecting to the internet sounded like a dinosaur having a seizure, and you got kicked offline if anyone picked up your landline. Those screeches still haunt my dreams. The 1900s were tough times, folks. The online option gave the quiet Johnny a way to get to know people with similar interests and make friends through playing video games, chats, and local bulletin board sites. He had even attended some meetups in the Vancouver area where friends from behind the screen became friends in person. As he got older, Johnny made a comfortable life for himself. He had his ups and downs, as we all do, but by the time he was in his late 30s, he had a stable career and a solid group of friends. He lived in a condo in Edmonton, and when he wasn't working, visiting with family, or playing paintball with friends, he was out enjoying rides on one of his motorcycles, which his friends said were his babies. Johnny had been looking to settle down and quite possibly have a family of his own. He had dated, but nothing had really stuck yet. Combining his interest in finding love and his comfort with talking to people online, he joined a couple of dating sites. In October of 2008, he met a woman named Jen on a dating site called Plenty of Fish. One thing did stand out to Johnny as odd, though. Jen wouldn't give him her address, but instead had given him directions to a garage where they were to meet. Though being a bit guarded about it, friends recall that Johnny was optimistic about meeting her. Since his friends had also found it a bit weird that Jen wasn't giving him an address or choosing to meet in a public space, in an abundance of caution, Johnny went ahead and sent the directions to his friend Dale Smith. Dale also insisted that Johnny call him when he arrived. On Friday, October 10th, Johnny set out for his date. Dale did get a call from him, but it looked as though he'd been stood up. Johnny said that when he arrived at the garage, Jen was not there. Instead, he had met a man who said he was a filmmaker and was showing him some of his movie props. Later that night, Dale got an email from Johnny saying he was going back to the garage to meet Jen. I guess things turned around for him. On Sunday, October 12th, the men were supposed to go on a motorcycle ride, but Johnny never showed. This really worried Dale because it wasn't like Johnny to just not show up. Dale's worry went to full-blown alarm the next morning when he and several of Johnny's friends received an unusual email from him saying that he had met a woman named Jen who was taking him on an extended vacation to Costa Rica. Not only was this completely out of character for him, but friends noticed that the wording of his email was off. And let's be honest, we all have a way of talking, emailing, and texting. Like, we all have our own unique signature. I can tell you right now that if my wife gets a text from me that says, okay, she doesn't think anything of it. Perfectly normal. If she gets a text from me that says, okay, with a period after it, she knows I'm pissed. One period at the end of 2 letters. That's all it takes. So knowing how he usually wrote, Johnny's friends weren't the email back and wait type. The meeting with the mystery woman, the no-show for the boys' day out, and the email that sounded off, but the behavior that was completely out of left field were all they needed to send them into action. They went to his condo and straight up broke in. And look, I'm not condoning breaking and entering in general, but in this case, I'm 100% for it. Honestly, I would probably do the same thing. Don't go missing around me or I'm going to break down your door. Don't worry, I've got friends in construction. We'll fix it later. They found his usual tidy home to be quite a mess, which is not how he would have left it if he were leaving on vacation. But one of the biggest red flags was that he had left his bike uncovered. Johnny meticulously cared for his motorcycle. He wouldn't have left for the grocery store without covering it, let alone the country. His friends immediately went to the Edmonton police and reported him missing. An investigation was launched where they discovered that his laptop was missing, but his clothes, toiletry, luggage, and passport were still in the home. Kinda hard to leave the country without that stuff. Thankfully, they had turn-by-turn directions to Johnny's last known location. Police quickly located the garage and knocked on the door of the home. It turned out that the garage and the home were rented separately, and the people renting the home had never heard of a woman named Jen. When asked about the garage, they said they didn't know much other than that it was a movie set. After some digging, police found the renter of the garage, Mark Twitchell. Mark had graduated from the television arts program at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. In 2007, he directed Star Wars: Secrets of the Rebellion. It was a full-length fan film that was a prequel set to just a few days before Star Wars: A New Hope. The film actually had a cameo by Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett in the original Star Wars films. And hey, that's pretty cool. He had just wrapped on the short film House of Cards, which he had written and directed and shot in the garage he was renting. Want to know a little bit more about this short film? I sure did. House of Cards was a thriller about a serial killer who considered himself a vigilante. Man, that concept sounds so familiar. The main character is a former police officer turned serial killer who sees his murders as justifiable because he kills unfaithful husbands. He poses as a woman on a dating site and lures victims to his home. Instead of finding a beautiful woman they'd been speaking with online, they're met with a man who tortures them for their passwords and bank information. In the movie, the killer gets away by using this information to trick the victim's family and friends into thinking the victim is still alive, just off on an extended vacation. We're clearly dealing with a creative genius here. Can you hear my eyes roll? When police reached out to him, Mark was cooperative. He allowed them access to the garage and answered all of their questions. Investigators found what appeared to be a replica of Dexter's kill room, which, if for any reason you have not seen the hit Showtime series, please stop listening and go binge the entire thing right now. There were plastic sheets covering the windows, cleaning supplies, a table with blood splatter, and all of this, he explained, were just props from his recent horror film. Okay. When asked if anything strange had happened recently, Mark actually said yes. He said that his car had been broken into and some receipts had been stolen. Police found this a bit odd. Why would someone go to the trouble to break into a vehicle and only steal a few receipts? A few days later, when Mark came home, he found his door was unlocked. He was a bit concerned because he connected that the receipts had his address on them. Oh, and there was just one more little thing. While working in the garage, Mark had a chance encounter with a complete stranger. A man came up and tapped on his window. The man told Mark he had met a beautiful, rich woman who was taking him out of the country, so he needed to sell his car. She was going to buy him a new one when they got back. Totally normal. Mark said, I don't have enough money to buy a car, and so the guy says to him, how much do you have on you? And Mark says, $40. So this stranger proceeded to sell him the vehicle for $40. Totally not suspicious. Mr. Not on Police's radar at all had now put himself directly in their sights. They knew there was no way this chain of events had happened. So they brought Mark in to get his statement, and Mark agreed. He proceeded to write an 8-page statement. And look, I'm wordy as fuck. Ask anyone. And even I think that's excessive. What they found strangest of all was that in his 8 pages of rambling, the $40 car incident, which was the major event, was only about 2 paragraphs of the whole thing. Detective Mark Ansey and Bill Clark had been assigned to the case. Detective Clark felt like Mark was hiding something, so he began to lean on him more. Though Mark did fully agree to just give them the keys to the Mazda that he had been mysteriously sold, he was showing signs of what detectives called classic signs of deception. Going with his gut, Detective Clark flat out told Mark that they believed he had something to do with Johnny Altinger's disappearance. The previously cooperative Mark disappeared. He clammed up and asked for a lawyer. Detective Clark admitted that he got a little heated by this, so when it came time for Mark to leave, he followed him out to the parking lot. When he asked Mark where the keys to the Mazda were, he said they were in his car. At that moment, Clark acted on instinct and said he was seizing the car because it had stolen property in it. Mark stammered and said, hey, I offered to just give you the keys. Why do you need my car? But Clark was not going to budge. Mark then tried to say, hey, I need to get something out of the vehicle. And Clark told him, you're getting fuck all out of that car. Detectives were given a warrant to search Mark's home, vehicle, and the garage he rented. In his home, they found Star Wars fandom items, Dexter DVDs, Dexter books, movies about serial killers, and books about serial killers and forensic science. Which, okay, same. I am positive that I have all of those same items in my home. So on its own, not super damning in my mind. But then they found a travel guide to Costa Rica and a stack of blank postcards. Inside the garage, among other things, they found a human tooth, and luminol tests revealed pools of blood. They also found a black and gold hockey mask with what appeared to be bloodstains on it. In the trunk of his car, they found a large blood stain and a blood-stained steak knife. In his car, they found tons of Post-it notes, which again, on its own, not very damning. Lots of people jot things down on Post-it notes. But one of them stood out. It was a list that read, ship phone while it's on, in parentheses, return Addy of Vic, destroy wallet contents, use laptop general Wi-Fi for email, kill room clean sweep. In his car, they also found his backpack, which had a large military-issue knife with blood on it, and they found his laptop. At this point, they had established no motive, but they were batting around the theory that Mark was making a snuff film. They had found someone online offering $1 million for a genuine snuff film, so it could have been a financial motivation. Because of this theory, police were combing through all of Mark's devices, so the laptop was sent to computer forensics. What they found on his laptop was quite possibly the most disturbing and most damning piece of evidence of all. A 35-page document that Mark had thought he deleted had been retrieved. It was titled SK Confessions. It began, quote, "This story is based on true events. The names and events were altered slightly to protect the guilty. This is the story of my progression into becoming a serial killer. Like anyone starting out a new skill, I had a bit of trial and error in the beginning of my misadventures. Let me start from the beginning and I think you'll see what I mean." End quote. Detectives were horrified as they read through what Mark would claim was a script, but actually turned out to be a blow-by-blow account of Johnny Altinger's murder. One thing detectives fixated on in the SK Confessions was the repeated mention of the one who got away. They hoped that if they could find this one who got away, they could prove that this document was actually a confession. The police went to the press to see if anyone would come forward, and wouldn't you know it, there was someone with a story to tell. Gilles Tiralt came forward and gave Detective Clark what he called, quote, "without a doubt, the most riveting witness interview I've had in my career." The week before Johnny Altinger's murder, Gilles Tiralt was heading out for a date with a woman named Sheena, whom he had met on the dating site Plenty of Fish. She had given him directions to a garage where they were to meet. As soon as he entered the garage, he was grabbed from behind and shocked with a stun baton. A man in a hockey mask pulled out a gun and ordered Tiralt to the ground and placed duct tape over his eyes. In a split-second decision, Tiralt decided, if I'm going to die, I'd rather go out my way than his way. He got up, ripped the duct tape off of his eyes, which owie, and grabbed the attacker's gun. At this point, he realized the gun was plastic. That's right, Twitchell was holding him hostage with a prop. The two struggled, but Tiralt was able to escape. He made it to his car and quickly drove away. When he got home and went back to the dating website, Shanna's profile had been deleted along with all of the messages they had exchanged. He told detectives that he didn't report this because he was truly just embarrassed, and he had convinced himself that it wasn't as serious as he first thought. But when he saw the news, he knew he had to come forward. Not only did they have Tiralt's statement and the SK Confessions, but forensics confirmed that it was indeed Johnny Altinger's blood in Mark Twitchell's garage and car. They arrested him on first-degree premeditated murder on October 31st, 2008. During his trial, his fixation on the series Dexter was mentioned repeatedly, as he had been noted to identify with the main character, a vigilante serial killer who worked as a forensic blood splatter analyst. This is why the media outlets dubbed him the Dexter Killer. Honestly, I don't think he deserves the comparison. Dexter Morgan would never. It was revealed that Mark Twitchell had indeed catfished Johnny Altinger, lured him to the garage, where he was hit in the head with a lead pipe, and then stabbed to death. Twitchell then unsuccessfully attempted to burn the body, so he dismembered Johnny, placed his remains in garbage bags, and disposed of him in a storm sewer. After killing Altinger, Twitchell took his keys, went to his home, and stole his laptop. He then used it to email Johnny's friends about this extended vacation in Costa Rica in an attempt to throw them off the scent. This doesn't fit Harry's code. Thankfully, it had the opposite effect. Gilles Tiralt testified for the Crown about his encounter with Twitchell and all of the details that matched up seamlessly with the SK confession and Johnny Altinger. I really, truly would have paid every cent in my bank account to see this man get up on the stand, look over at Twitchell, and make eye contact and say, "Surprise, motherfucker!" His brave retelling of the events no doubt let the jury know exactly who they were dealing with. In their impact statements, Johnny's brother Gary said that he and his wife both had stress-related illnesses since the murder, and, heartbreakingly, their children now often woke from nightmares about monsters. Jerry said, quote, It's impossible to be honest with them, knowing monsters do live among us. Brian's mother said, quote, "There are no words to describe the pain and feeling of horror one goes through. There is no joy in my life. It has been ripped away from me." She also added that it was her wish that Mark Twitchell die a slow death in prison while reflecting on his crime. Now that right there, that is some mom energy, and I'm with it. Detective Anstey said that John Altinger saved lives by emailing his friends those directions to the garage. By making sure someone knew where he was, it ensured that Twitchell didn't fly under the radar, as he very well could have without Johnny's help. He told Altinger's mom, quote, "Your son, in a roundabout way, was a hero. He definitely saved a lot of grief for other families." The investigation involved more than 120 police officers, one of the largest in Edmonton's history. If footage of Altinger's murder does exist, it has never been found. After 5 hours of deliberation, the jury unanimously found him guilty. On April 12, 2011, Twitchell was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. The next month, he filed a handwritten appeal stating that the media attention influenced the jury. He withdrew the appeal and is now serving his time in the Saskatchewan Federal Penitentiary. In May of 2013, the National Post reported that Twitchell had purchased a television for his prison cell. Twitchell stated that he had caught up on every episode of Dexter that he had missed since he was arrested. Okay, this whole thing pisses me off. The whole thing, start to finish. But this piece of human fucking garbage kills an innocent man and then is allowed to just sit and binge his favorite show? No. I'm gonna need someone to make a law about that. Get me someone from legal. Anyone convicted of murder shouldn't be allowed fandom closure. You should have to stew in uncertainty for eternity, motherfucker. Dexter Morgan would not approve. Michael C. Hall, who played Dexter, surely didn't approve. When asked his thoughts on Mark Twitchell and his obsession with the character, the actor said, quote, "I don't know. All I can say is that it's horrifying to entertain the notion that something you did inspired that. I immediately find myself saying, well, he would have found something else to inspire him, but I don't know. To be perfectly honest, it's a troubling thing to consider." Ouch. Looks like the feelings aren't mutual, Twitch. Apparently, this jackass isn't letting one rejection get him down because he is on a prison dating site. Yes, you heard that correctly. His profile on Canadian Inmate Connect says he's looking for an interesting, intelligent, open-minded, delightfully imperfect woman to relate to and share amusing observations with, as well as possibly a long weekend every few months if it goes there naturally. I would rather put out a campfire with my face than talk to this loser. I would think that if you're convicted of murdering someone you lured from a dating site, you should get a lifetime ban from dating sites. I don't know, I guess my logic is flawed. And if you're cruising the internet for inmates, I'm guessing your standards are already pretty low. And that, friends, is the case of the Dexter Killer. I kept it a little shorter today since my psyche is still recovering from Fred and Rose, and so yours might be too. I feel like there are no super awesome ways to segue out of murder, so I'm just going to have to accept these are going to be abrupt. Before I take off, I wanted to share something funny that my 9-year-old asked me last night. He asks, "If your mom and I got arrested, who would you bail out?" Have kids, they said. The parenting books did not prepare me for this one at all. He keeps me on my toes. I told him, first of all, in what world are you and Grandma arrested and I'm not in the cell with you? Second, you. 100% you. My mom can handle herself in prison. You could not. Not yet. That's all I've got for you today, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. If you're liking the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Also, please keep spreading the word. You know, every like, every comment, every follow, every subscription, it helps. It counts, and I appreciate each and every single one of them. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Criminally Nerdy Podcast, Twitter, X, whatever, at Crime Nerd Pod, or you can shoot me an email anytime at criminallynerdypodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, keep it nerdy. Jesus Christ, already. Fuck. No. God. You've got to be kidding me. It's too early for this. This son of a bitch. Brain mouth word. Who am I apologizing to? The shoes? American Bandstand. You know how to speak. That sounds like an STD. Fan-fucking-tastic. Really? Damn it. Sammy! Confection? What is this, a cake? Deck sticker? Okay, Penny. Sorry, I can't help myself. You can do it.